Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here. We have three extraordinarily talented authors. We've got one, they're all across the world. I think two of them are in Miami, and one is what, Australia?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. All right. We've got three authors using their creative talents to speak for animals. So much to get to. I would like to start. You get the I'm farthest away, so you get to talk first award. MC Ronan, you have written incredible books. You've got your latest book, which is Dear Tui, A Warning. Tell me what this book is about.
This book is a climate fiction. It's a climate crisis novel. It stemmed out of my frustration and fear that climate change is obviously real. It's happening now. It's not some distant problem that we have to deal with. It's happening right now. And my frustration grows steadily because we don't give animal agriculture enough space in the way that we talk about mitigating this disaster. And so, in my book, all my books are very action driven. So they ask you to do something, mainly go vegan, but there are fiction books. So it's a gut wrenching story. It's very hard hitting tale about climate crisis, and the message is very clear. We have to go vegan, we have to adopt a plant based economy in order to save ourselves. I can keep going and talking about my book. Just
No, it's absolutely fascinating. And I want to show the book while we look at images of climate change. Here is the book, Dear Tui, A Warning. And you can get it now on Amazon. You can pre order it. I believe it comes out in September. And I also want to mention that you're the author of three other books, a trilogy: The Shed, Liberation, and It Was in Our Hands. And honestly, these are so extraordinary. If there's anybody in the movie business watching this, consider that this could be the next J.K. Rowling's that you're talking to today. And please, read these books for the possibility of turning them into a screenplay that would be right up there with Harry Potter, because this is truly compelling and you are extraordinarily prolific, absolutely amazing. So, The Shed, Liberation, It Was in Our Hands, and now, Dear Tui, A Warning. So I told you we have two books that we're talking about today. The Thing, or let me just say it exactly as it's written: thing, inside the struggle for animal personhood. And this is a very inspiring book because it's about a real life animal, an animal named Happy, ironically titled, a miserable elephant trapped in the Bronx Zoo named Happy. And there has been a battle for years to get Happy out of the Bronx Zoo. And I'm going to play you a little video before we go to the two authors who are here with us from Miami, I believe. Let's get up to date on the issue surrounding Happy the elephant, and then we will talk to the authors.
And there is Happy the elephant. You'll see Happy has hay and stuff on her back, but they do this to keep the bugs off.
Keep an elephant properly in the zoo. And the Bronx Zoo knows you can't do that. They know you can't do that. That's why they said that they're going to close their elephant exhibit after the elephants die. Well, why don't they close it now? Why don't they send them to a sanctuary now? We have begun litigating our cases, first on behalf of chimpanzees, now on behalf of elephants, because we can use the affidavits of really the greatest chimpanzee experts and the greatest elephant experts that show that chimpanzees and elephants are autonomous beings who can choose how to live their lives, and they're extraordinarily cognitively complex.
Oh, absolutely beautiful. So I would like to go straight out to Sam and Cynthia Machado, who have put together this extraordinary book. Thank you for joining us. And it's not just a written book, it is a book that has incredible artwork in it. So let me first show the actual cover. And again, you can get this on Amazon, Thing Inside the Struggle for Animal Personhood. And then I want to show some of the incredibly beautiful depictions of this struggle. And as you heard Stephen Wise from the Non-Human Rights Project mention, it's not just elephants, although that certainly would be an incredible victory to get them personhood. It's also primates and, frankly, every other sentient being. Take it away, Sam.
Hi guys. So yeah, you saw video of our co-author Steve. Steve's a close personal friend, and he has been leading this fight for non-human personhood for now almost 30 years. His first cases involving chimpanzees was the subject of a documentary. You saw a little bit of that there. But he partnered with us to write this graphic novel about Happy almost 5 years ago. And we got a backdoor seat almost, got taken inside the Non-Human Rights Project to see how they form these cases, why these cases are so important, and really the struggle that the zoos have been putting up to prevent something like this from a court recognizing that perhaps Happy might have some bodily liberty, some rights to herself.
I mean, when we look back in history and we think about what we have done to these animals, shame on us as the human race. Shame on us. Just the idea that we would kidnap these animals from the wild and then put them in these glorified prisons called zoos. And, we are paying the price now with climate change because it's all interconnected. Wildlife destruction is because of habitat destruction. You destroy their habitat, you're going to destroy the animals who live in that habitat. And then you're talking about wildlife extinction. And it's coming back to us because as we destroy their homes, we're also destroying our ability to absorb carbon because trees absorb carbon. Photosynthesis, that's why we have trees, because they take the carbon and they turn it into plants and they turn it into trunks and leaves. And so we are just actually not seeing how we are sabotaging ourselves, Cynthia, when we abduct and torture these animals.
Absolutely. We need actually something that calls more for a call to have rights of nature, rights of animals. We already bring these animals into our societies. And as a society of humans, we need to be able to incorporate their rights as well as our rights. It's going to lift all of our rights up to be able to acknowledge that these beings are autonomous and that the earth actually needs more stewardship than it does of our taking the resources right out for our own personal use.
So let me ask a provocative question here. A lot of people are not reading anymore. I myself have to confess that I listen to most books on Audible, or I read. Yes, I have read on Kindle when I'm at the airport, but generally I'm listening on Audible to books, and I'm also reading articles, more articles than actual books. I have to go back to MC Ronan. You've written all these trilogies, but I know we have discussed how some of them would make great movies. First of all, are you on Audible? Do you have plans to get on Audible?
I do have plans to go on Audible. I'm not yet there. So it's definitely in the plans. It's a big undertaking. So if people get my books, read them more, and get them far and wide further, then definitely Audible is next.
Well, I
Yes.
mean, I would do everything you can because honestly, I think more people are listening to books on Audible than they are reading hardcover books. And when they are reading, they're reading a lot of times on Kindle. I mean, I see it with myself. I'm on the airport. That's one of the high times when people actually read books is when they're at the airport. And even then, a vast majority of people on planes are either watching movies or they're looking at it on Kindle. Which are you on Kindle?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
So if you pre-order the book, which I recommend, it's in the format of an ebook. The actual launch is 6th of September, where you can actually buy a printed paper book.
All right, we've got some callers coming in. Nilo Farr from Dallas, Texas. Your question or thought for our three extraordinary authors who are joining us today.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. What does TUI mean? I looked it up and I couldn't find it. What did you mean when you titled the book Dear TUI? Thanks.
Great question.
Yeah, take it for granted. So I'm from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and tui is one of our national birds. It's a beautiful bird with a little napkin here, white. It's a beautiful bird, native to New Zealand, and also a name, a personal name, first name for mostly girls, I think. So in this book, Tui is a girl. She's the daughter of my protagonist. And this book was sort of written by the protagonist, Juniper, to her daughter, Tui.
Wow. Well, it's so bizarre that as you finish writing this and you're promoting it, we've got a climate crisis going on. I don't know if anybody's seen what's happening in Corfu and the Greek islands. People are being evacuated. The wildfires are out of control. I read that the waters in Miami I couldn't even believe it. Is this a typo? The water is like over 100 degrees. What's happening? It's not a typo, exactly. This is actually happening, and we're writing about it, but can we stop it? It's just beyond comprehension that we have a solution, all of us gathered, and that's what Unshade TV is all about, offering people a solution that would solve not only the climate crisis, but also world hunger and get people healthier and stop the suffering of billions of animals. And it's hard to get people to listen to it. We've got another caller, Michelle in Los Angeles. Your question or thought for our incredible creative team joining us here.
Hi. Well, I think the books are fantastic. And I was wondering, is there a plan to get them in schools? Because if kids could get this early on and really realize that zoos are not what they are, they're like glorified prisons, as you say, that would be amazing.
Great question. Cynthia, you want to take that away?
No, I guess we're going to have to ask Governor DeSantis. Let me not do that. Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead, you take this.
So, yes, we do have plans to bring the books into schools. We're working on a curriculum right now with a few professors here in Florida. But, to go back to the earlier point, to do something like this, it's going to take political will. It's going to take the will of the courts. And the will of the voters to force the courts and to force politicians to take this a lot more seriously. And when you're talking about here in Florida, when you're talking about the Greek islands, we're talking about an existential threat that doesn't just damage coral reefs here in Florida, which are bad enough, but it literally makes it hard for Cynthia and I to live our daily lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Los Angeles, and I have to say, I think I'm in one of the cooler parts because I live right at the beach, but it's still incredibly hot. And the valley is unbelievable. We've all heard about Phoenix, Arizona. We're hearing that delivery people are now saying, hey, we're passing out. We're trying to deliver packages and we're passing out. And, as you said, this is an existential crisis. And we are just seeing the first phase of it. It's not even past the appetizer phase yet. So it's not just me saying this. It's people like Sir David Attenborough, who has a great documentary called Breaking Boundaries. There's only a handful of boundaries. Once you break them, there's no going back. Once you've destroyed the ice caps and they've melted, you can't just go order some new ice caps. Okay. It's over. It's game over. And what I think is interesting is that the human species is a very arrogant species. And somehow we think we can't go extinct the way the dinosaurs went extinct. But we can go extinct. We absolutely can go extinct. And, there's a threat of that happening. I mean, let's face it. If the if the planet becomes too hot to support life, it's game over. I mean, that's an obvious thing. That's why I urge everybody to download Unchained TV. This is our nonprofit's free streaming network filled with many, many hundreds, even thousands of videos, documentaries, and plant-based cooking shows that show us another way. Because at the very heart of all the destruction, arguably one of the leading causes of climate change. Many have made the case that it's when you calculate in another way, it's the leading cause of climate change is animal agriculture. And animal agriculture is the same mentality behind kidnapping Happy and putting Happy in a prison. It's dominion, that we have the right to do this. But we may have the might to do it, but do we have the moral right to do it? Certainly not. All right, we've got another caller, Lindsay in Woodland Hills, California, where it's probably very hot. What's it like there in Woodland Hills, which is the valley? And what's your question?
Well, oh, yes. Well, thank you. To give you an example, I'm having a little get-together this weekend, and as we speak, my handyman is over at Home Depot looking to put a sprinkler system so that it could help to keep people cool. I mean, that's how bad now. Normally, it's not that hot here as it is now. It is incredibly hot. The valley tends to be hotter, but I'm in an area where there's a lot of trees, etc. So it normally isn't that bad, but it's incredible out there. My dogs come in 2 seconds. And it's funny, my comment is, I'm so glad that you're doing this work. We need every voice out there and in a compelling way that's going to have people not tune out to the message. Yesterday on the news, talk about the corals, I heard them saying that because of the heated water, corals are dying, and they were actually talking. They actually mentioned animal agriculture, cutting down on meat consumption. It was on one of the news networks. It doesn't happen a lot, but it's slowly happening. Probably not fast enough. So, but thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. And do you have a question for our authors?
Well, that was just my comment. Thank you for, doing this work and finding a way in with your voice. Writing books about it, writing compelling books about it is a great way, as Jane said, with catching people when they're driving. They can put it in and listen to it, books on tape. So thank you so much for your work. And I can't wait to read the books myself.
So let me ask you, thank you, Lindsay. Let me ask you about the creative process. Full disclosure, I've written a couple of novels, and guess where they went? In the fireplace. Because I looked them over and I said, okay, I wanted to say, just like I ran one marathon, that I did it and I got to the end. But these novels are not good. I have written 4 books, including 2 New York Times bestsellers, but those were nonfiction. So to me, nonfiction is a heck of a lot easier than fiction. So I want to go back to MC Ronan. What is your creative process? Because you are so prolific, you're churning them out. How do you have the confidence to, invest in your characters, and what drives you?
Well, I am vegan and an animal rights activist first and foremost. And writing for me is an extension of my activism for the animals and now also for the planet, which is one and the same. It's interesting what the last caller said, that she saw it on the news. I think I read somewhere that about 90% roundabout of news reports do not mention animal
True.
agriculture as part of climate change. So we hear so much about climate change, but how much do we hear about animal agriculture? Almost nothing. It's such a hot potato. And I think obviously one of the reason is that the funding that goes into those stations, into those reports, comes from those industries. So it's a kind of a trap. But so yeah, I in my core, in my being, I try to do everything I can to voice the issue of the animals who are slaughtered, who are exploited, who are abused for humans. And one of the things that I do well is write. I do it so easily. I don't know, it comes out easily. I wrote all my life. I just didn't publish.
And
And so
let me jump in. You've won some awards. I
yeah.
know that you're very modest, but I want you to talk about that and tell us what awards you've won because, I think sometimes people, just like they actually scoff at our message that there's another way of living that doesn't involve killing, that could literally save not only the animals, but your health and the planet. It's the same thing with these books. I mean, what awards have you won?
For the trilogy, for the Liberation trilogy, I won the Gold Star Literary Titan Award and also the Vegan Choice Award, where I was compared. So the Liberation trilogy was compared to George Orwell's 1984, The
Wow.
Effective. Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing. Okay, we've got another caller, Annie in Sherman Oaks. Your question or thought as we discuss these two incredible works and actually three authors who are revealing their creative process and using it to speak up for animals. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much, Jane. Thank you for having the show, and thank you all for being here. Your incredible work, I cannot appreciate enough. I love that you're documenting and giving it to us in books. Do you have resources included in your books as to what people should do, what sites to go to, where and how to make a difference? To know the fact is one great thing you're doing, and I can't appreciate you enough for that. But do you also have it included in your book, where to contact, who to contact, aside from Unchained TV with Jane, of course, and you're buying your book. So that's an important thing because we want this to go into schools, into libraries, and for people to know after being frustrated about the reality, what are the solutions and how can we access them? Am I making sense?
Absolutely. But I have to say that while we want to put everything but the kitchen sink in our works, sometimes you can buy back the sale with too much information. And so I think, I always liken it to when you go into a shrink's office, within an hour, they probably know all your problems. But then it takes you 7 years to figure them out on yourself. And they sit there going, because until you figure it out, until you connect the dots, it really doesn't work. Sam, you're nodding your head. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're absolutely true. You're absolutely right on this. We recommend, and it's something I learned from Steve, actually, Stephen Wise, our co-author, is to educate a new generation of lawyers, a new generation of judges, a new generation of politicians to really think about what you said earlier in the newscast, which is our dominion over the non-human world, as David Attenborough put it. We have to totally rethink that, and that begins with changing a paradigm of a young child or even an aspiring lawyer when they're in college and impressionable and ready to learn new things about how the law works, about how our society works. I think we get a lot of traction when we focus on them. And unfortunately, it might be too late if that's the only thing we do. So other things to think about are supporting organizations like the Non-Human Rights Project, who are out there trying to get animals a basic right to bodily liberty.
Let me ask you about that a little bit, because it's been in the courts back and forth, and it's almost hard to keep up with. My understanding is that Happy the Elephant, the Non-Human Rights Project, Stephen Wise went to court and got up to, I believe, what, the highest court in the land, and there were dissents, powerful dissents. Some of the judges agreed that these animals deserve personhood, but the majority didn't agree. Is that a fair assessment? Correct me if I'm wrong. And what happens next?
So totally fair assessment. Every case, they pick up more dissents and a larger crowd of people saying, hey, the courts don't have this right. And that's sort of the way the courts are supposed to work. But they made it all the way up to the Court of Appeals in New York, which is, as you said, the highest court in the land. And they picked up two very powerful dissents. The opinion against Happy was 17 pages. 120 pages or more was devoted to the dissent. So that goes to show you that people are having some very strong emotions about the way courts have historically looked at these things and the direction that we have to go. And so have courts in the rest of the world. This is already changing. It's even changing in little by little in parliaments. Even New Zealand's parliament has acknowledged some rights to nature through treaty negotiation. So, you know, we would like to see more parliaments, congresses, and courts start thinking like Ecuador, like other countries that have made some room for the non-human world to have a legal voice.
And I want to give another shout out to New Zealand. Correct me if I'm wrong, but New Zealand, I believe, has banned live export, which is a huge, huge battle in Australia and New Zealand. And New Zealand, I think, has eclipsed Australia by being on the forefront of that. That was my understanding. MC?
Yeah, it's true. However, this is it's in jeopardy because if we have a national election coming up in October, and if the National Party wins the election and forms a government, they have already announced that they might bring back live exports. So it's a wonderful a win, but we always need to remember that the fight is not over until it's over, and it's very much still happens. It's still fought.
Oh, you are absolutely right. There's something called the EATS Act right now in the United States Congress that they are debating and discussing that would wipe out all the progress we've made for animals. And there's one legislator who always wants to stick it in, and he's trying to stick it in the farm bill. So every time I get all these emails, I write to my senators and my member of Congress, defeat the EATS Act, defeat the EATS Act. And if you are watching, absolutely say no to the EATS Act. Talk to your two senators and your member of Congress immediately. It is so important. The Center for Humane Economy is leading that fight, as well as some other organizations in defense of animals. We've got to stay on top of that. All right, we're going to take a short break on Voice America Radio, but we're staying live on the Unchained TV app. We'll be back in a second, but don't go anywhere. We're going to continue talking because we are on the Unchained TV app right now. So let me tell you a little bit. All right, let me tell you a little bit about our Unchained TV app while we are on this break from Voice America Radio, which is a global internet news organization. These videos and these audio go out on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Unchained TV is a fantastic free streaming network, the world's only vegan animal rights streaming network. And we are right up there with Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu and all of these others. And I'll tell you how you can get it. You can download it absolutely for free on your phone, for free. Here it is. I can just show you right now. All you do is go to your phone's app store and you put in one word, Unchained TV. If you just put in Unchained, some really skanky things come up. So just put Unchained TV, one word. And we have literally thousands of videos that are cooking shows, documentaries, everything we've been talking about here. And in fact, I would like to get Stephen Wise's documentary on here. And I will work on that. Maybe you could help me, Sam and Cynthia, and connect me, because we rely on free content. I just read this morning that CNN spent $300 million on their streaming network, which they then closed down. We spent about $40,000 to start ours. So the way we're able to do it is I don't take a salary. We're 99.9% all volunteer, except for some very few people doing technical work. And then we get free content. And then we collaborate with those content creators to promote whatever we've created. So I urge you all to download it. You can download it on your phone. You can also download it on your television. We're now on all Samsung TVs. So just go into your Samsung TV Smart Hub, and then you just go into the little app store and put in Unchained TV. It pops right up. I've got mine on my Samsung TV right next to Netflix. And you can move it around, so it could be right up at the front. You can also get it if you have an Amazon Fire Stick, a Roku device, or an Apple TV device. Just literally ask for Unchained TV. You just type it in there. Actually, you don't even have to put the whole word. I put UN and it comes right up. All right, we are back. Voice America Radio. Let's hit it. We are returning with our incredible discussion.
You are listening to Unchained TV. To reach the show today, call in to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. You may also send an email in to jane@unchainedtv.com. Now, back to the show.
We are here with some extraordinary authors. I am so inspired by them because, like I said, I've written a couple of novels and put it right in the fireplace. But we've got MC Ronan, who is in New Zealand, who's written this incredible, absolutely extraordinary trilogy with an animal rights theme. You can get this on Amazon, as well as another book called Dear Tui, A Warning About Climate Change. And then along with that, we've got Thing. And the two of the authors behind Thing, which is this incredible, I want to describe it correctly, and maybe I'll ask you to describe it, because a lot of times when we talk about graphic novel or graphic this, graphic that, I don't know what the correct terminology is, but just take a look at some of the illustrations. These are just two. They're absolutely incredible, and they have a message. Sam and Cynthia has joined us as well. You're co-authors along with Stephen M. Wise of the Non-Human Rights Project. Tell us about the creative process when it comes to writing a book, but a lot of the writing is actually drawing or painting, however you would describe it. Cynthia, take it away.
Well, a lot of what we do collaboratively, the main focus of the design work is focused right over here with Sam. I do a lot of the principal artwork on the book. My job is to make everything look so inspiring that you want to keep turning pages and to go ahead and tell a story with those pictures, kind of like a documentary. It's true that graphic novels have a wide berth of things that they can go ahead and do for you in the fiction world. But in the nonfiction world, this has not been a tried and true way of disseminating information. This is one of the only books of its kind on the market.
Well, elaborate on that. How is it the only book of its kind on the market?
We are actually talking about more in-depth things in the simplest ways that we can. You can only put so many things in a narration box. We can't blanket with information as much as show people how things are actually working and show people how things are done through pictures. The words and the pictures just go together in order to give that information and to inspire people to want to look into the matters further.
So I'm looking at these, when I was trying to read them, I couldn't, because you'd obviously have a much larger book, read some of the messaging. Can you summarize what it is, the message is from this particular page of your book?
Yeah, so that page was depicting some interactions that we have seen apes and monkeys have when they begin exploring themselves in a mirror. The mirror self-recognition test, or the MSR, is the standard way that we determine whether or not an individual has a concept of themselves and recognizes themselves as a distinct entity that they can see their reflection, they know they're looking at themselves, and then they start exploring that. And it's something that we do to children around 2 or 3 years old to see how they're developing. And what we found is that other primates, and include and animals that aren't primates, like happy, can recognize themselves in the mirror, and that's what that particular page was depicting. One
Now,
of the
what
things,
about this elephant one?
yeah. So here's a real interesting thing about elephants. You know, they communicate so much with their trunks and also with their sounds between each other. And this was this was a panel that we designed where an elephant is actually helping a baby elephant get up on its feet. And it's actually one of the things that you see the most often with elephants is this whole community, this whole tribe that raises the children together and helps them learn to walk, helps them learn to talk, helps them learn to ask for help even. They all work together to do that. And so it's sometimes easier for us to depict that with one or two very compelling panels than it is for us to throw in a bunch of footnotes that you can't do really in a graphic novel.
Well, I think this is incredible. And also, one of the problems that we have is, people don't want to see the truth. I am very, very careful with how much graphic footage or imagery I show because it's so disturbing to people. But what I say is if it's too disturbing to look at, even for a second, okay, this is from factory farming right here. These are recent undercover investigations. Okay. This is, I'll show you. This is a Canadian pig farm that had like the highest rating. Okay. And what did they do? They put the people who videotaped that on trial. And now a lot of them have criminal records for showing that, even though they live streamed it and said, we're showing this. Please, media, come. Please, police, come. The police refused to prosecute. The media never showed up until they were put on trial. One of the reasons we started Unchained TV is for a lot of organizations, people have to get naked or they have to get arrested to get news coverage. And I've seen this with my own eyes. And I have not gotten naked and I have not gotten arrested. And that's a good thing, especially the former. But the point is that why should we have to go to such extraordinary lengths of risking time in prison in order to get the media to do its job, which is not just to make their advertisers, fast food and pharmaceuticals, feel good. It's to show the truth. Okay. Recently, there was a big story in Distilled and Quartz, which are two tiny publications, that the meat industry got the United Nations International, the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, to remove references that people should go plant-based to mitigate climate change. And that is huge. That is a huge story. It should have been on the front page of the New York Times, but it was not reported. It should have been.
It's in my book, by the way.
Well, yes, let's talk about that. Who said that?
Maya M. C.
Oh,
Rowling.
Maya. Okay, yes. Talk about that, Maya.
That specific enraged me so much that I actually have it in my book in a conversation that Juniper, as a child, has with her brother, her older brother, and he's telling her about it. Oh, you can't believe it, and the IPCC, and he's enraged, and she is afraid because what's going to happen. She's just a child, and the future looks very bleak. So yeah, all these things I incorporated into the book. Everything that frustrates me found its way into the book. Now, you raised the point that how do you bring hardcore content into people? I mean, why would they want to read it even? I have to say that these books are, well, I'm vegan, and this is my mission is to write vegan books with animal rights and planet um, message, but they are not just for vegans or animal rights people. They
No,
are
we
for
don't want to.
everyone.
Yes, we don't want to
And
preach
the
to the
message is,
converted.
yeah,
If this is a big problem with our movement is we're talking to each other. We're talking to each other right now, but hopefully people listening on Spotify and Google Play and iTunes and the Unchained TV streaming TV network and our Facebook page and our YouTube page and our Twitter page and our LinkedIn page, would be not just vegans. We've got to get outside the vegan echo chamber. Go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, yeah, my books are very much not just for vegans. They are for pre-vegans, as I like to call them, and everyone, really, absolutely everyone. The message is interwoven into the messages are there, but they're not. Oh, da 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 da. They're not loud and off-putting. Actually, the other way around. The books are very inviting, and we talked about audio and people don't read, but the one thing I hear most from people who read my books is I couldn't put the books down. I couldn't put them down. I read them like in two sittings or something like that. So even people who are not vegan would not be able to put the books down, and that's where the message, it filters through. And at the end, just going back to one question that we had before about resources, I do have a call to action at the end of my book, because Dear Tui, A Warning is very hard hitting book, and it can leave you like feeling, oh, what do I do now? So I don't want this to happen. What do I do? So I do have a few points that you can take in order to mitigate climate change. And the first thing that you should do if you're not really already vegan is go vegan. But there are other things that you can do that I just have them up as points.
Yes, and it's for a lot of people, it's a process, not an event. I myself, I've been vegan, 27 years now, approximately. I wish I had my vegan date the way I have my sobriety date. I know the last moment that I had a drink, and that was April Fool's Day, believe it or not, which is very appropriate. But I don't know my exact moment date of going vegan, but I know it was very soon after I got sober. So I had some clarity, right? And I would say that get on the journey. Get on the journey. Start incorporating more fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains into your lifestyle. I myself learn every day thanks to uploading all these videos all the time. I spend so many hours of my day uploading videos to our Unchained TV streaming network, and I'm learning so much. I'll give you an example. We created a climate and sustainability category, and I'm uploading these composting videos, and all of a sudden I stopped and said, wait a second, I'm a hypocrite. I don't compost. Uh-oh. So I went and I got a metal bucket that I happen to have in my closet, and I put it in my refrigerator. And then when I took the banana peel, I threw it in there. And then I'm like, wait a second, where am I going to put this? Then I called our building and I said, you got to get a green composting bill. All this, now I compost and I'm enjoying it. It gives me a sense of satisfaction and not going to leave that watermelon rind there to rot. I'm putting it in the compost bin. And now I'm telling the guys who trim the foliage, hey, put that stuff in the compost bin. And they're like, right on. So actually, that's how change happens. And that's why I urge everybody, download the Unchained TV app. One last thing I want to say about it is that you can text a video to a friend. I'll give you an example. There is an older guy in my neighborhood said, oh, I've known him for years. He's not vegan. He goes, I don't feel so good lately. I said, here, I'm going to text you a film. I texted him Forks Over Knives. He watched it. And he said, I'm going to try to incorporate more fruits and vegetables into my diet. I mean, that's how change happens. Sure, would I like everybody to go vegan overnight and be vegan by 6 p.m. This evening? Yes. But it's going to take reaching the other people out there. And so thank you for downloading the Unchained TV app and buy these books. I mean, we've got a few minutes here, but I want to make sure everybody knows that these books are available on Amazon for purchase. And I can't think of anything better to do than to go to Amazon right now and get them. You can get them on, well, I know, MC, yours are available on Kindle, and you're going to work up to Audible. And tell me about the availability of Thing, if you would, Steve and Cynthia.
So Thing is anywhere you buy books. You should be able to find it in your local bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, bookshop.org if you want to give indie bookstores a fighting chance against Amazon. That's available for you too. And you can always get it from our publishers at islandpress.org also. So you can find us there. We are on Kindle. So you can find us on Kindle, and I believe Kindle also handles Comicology. So if you're a comic book reader and you're used to getting all your comics through Comicology, like we are, then you can read them right. You can read it right there also.
So let me ask you about who the audience is, because a lot of uninformed people, such as myself, sometimes think, well, if it's graphic, I know the phrase graphic novel. What is the phrase for graphic nonfiction?
We don't have one yet. So we've been calling it a graphic novel or a nonfiction graphic novel, and watch everybody's head kind of turn it around for a second.
Exactly. This is one of the first of its kind in the marketplace. So what we're trying to do is have an open audience, if you will. Anybody can pick up this book and understand what's actually happening. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, it's still ample information to go ahead and base your opinions on. So that's how we're marketing that.
Do you think it's appropriate for children, or is it more appropriate for adults, or everybody?
I would say that the reading level is probably better for a middle school student and up, but totally appropriate for children. We certainly didn't put anything in there that we thought we wouldn't want to explain to our nieces and our nephews. Our kids are all grown up now, so we've all had very frank talks, and they're the ones who got us thinking about animals and thinking about going vegan. In fact, Forks Over Knives is what I gave my mother to have her think about it too. So, we have 3 generations in our family now that have all made that change. And I have to thank my kids for being the ones that brought it to my attention.
Well, actually, interestingly enough, it's often the children who are repelled by meat, and their misguided parents force it down their throats and say, hey, this is what you have to eat. It's good for you. And often they're feeding them processed meat, which is officially cancer causing, according to the World Health Organization. That includes bacon, hot dogs, deli slices, how a lot of people consume meat on a daily basis. Look it up. It is officially a carcinogen, according to the World Health Organization. Now, if you were giving kids cigarettes, people would call child services on you. But even, I was just listening to a major network yesterday, and I say listening because I listen when I drive around to the cable networks, and they're talking about how, well, there's these plant-based products, but meat has the protein and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, it has cholesterol, it has the antibiotics, it has the chemicals. If it's processed, it has a carcinogenic element, and you're not discussing that at all. And the doctors don't talk about it either. Doctors, and I go to on one of the top medical centers in the United States and the world. They ask you whether you used to drink, they ask you whether you used to smoke, and they do not ask you whether you are eating animals or animal products, because it's left out of the equation. The time will come when it can't be left out of the equation anymore. And, it reminds me of that movie, Don't Look Up, where I don't know how many seen that movie, but it's so brilliant. It's a metaphor for climate change, where these two people are on this show, this morning show, and they're like, a meteor's coming, it's going to kill us all. And the host is like, chill out. This is a morning show. We're upbeat. It's like, hello, this is a crisis. We've got another caller, Michael in Los Angeles. Your question or thought for our panel.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? I just want to say that I bought and read all of Maya's books. They're all amazing. I highly recommend it. But anyway, I just wanted to ask a question. The whole panel is, what inspired you to write these books? I just was curious as what was the impetus, to write about this issue, very important issue.
Well, that's probably the best question of the day, and I didn't ask it. So let's start with Maya, and we'll go then to Sam and Cynthia.
Thank you so much to the caller. I really appreciate that. My frustration and fear. I'm driven by my frustrations and fears. I am afraid of climate change, and that I have children. I'm afraid of the kind of planet that we're going to leave them, if any. And I'm frustrated by the lack of awareness and the lack of media rallying against animal agriculture. And so, as an activist and a writer, I combined the two, and there we go. And I have to say, in New Zealand, we had the mirror image of fires. We had flooding, and we had a cyclone, which is like a hurricane in the southern hemisphere, and we had it in summertime. So that was February, January, February, and it was devastating, absolutely devastating. And we're still suffering the consequences of these. Cataclysmic events that everyone said, oh, it's a one-off. One-off. We had them still. It's still happening. So it's not the one-off anymore. It's happening again and again. And I just feel like I'm driven by because I'm a writer. So that's my talent. That's what I do. So through writing, I want to bring this problem to people's attention.
All right, I want to get your process, Sam and Cynthia. Take it away.
Well, for me, the inspiration was this almost like an existential need, very much an angst that we totally need to rethink how we relate to the world that is not simply a human world. Our way of looking at things is totally from a human point of view, and we don't really take in consideration that our environment needs things, that it might have a right to procreate and exist, and that other beings in that environment might also have a right to procreate and exist, not just humans. And that angst that really was driving me to think differently eventually led to my creative outlet. I've always been an artist. I've always been a cartoonist, regardless of what my degrees are, or regardless of what I do professionally. I'm a cartoonist and an artist first.
Oh, how wonderful. Cynthia.
My inspiration mainly was for the orca going into this. I remember very early on getting into the scene where I was learning about how we treat animals in agriculture. And one of the first things I came across was Lolita, the killer whale, Tokate. Now we try to call her here in Miami. I was always really big into going to SeaWorld and to going to zoos and to looking at the animals when I was very, very young. But as I got older, I realized what that actually entailed for the animals, and their health was not good in these environments. So this is really what inspired me to go ahead and show some of these depictions and try and find a better way to go ahead and have these animals maintain their autonomy, maintain their freedom, and be able to lend my own artistic value to it.
Quick question. We've only got a couple of minutes. Maya, are you considering turning your trilogy into a screenplay that could turn into a movie, or the single novel about Tua?
Yeah. Oh, this is, by the way, this is my co-writer. So yes, I wrote the screenplay for The Shed for the first movie. It actually got some accolades. I came quarterfinalist in some competition, Santa Barbara International Screenplay or something, and but I kind of let it go because I started writing Dear Tui, and I kind of dropped it. But there is already a screenplay for the first book, and I definitely, once the dust settles on Dear Tui launch, I definitely intend to go back to it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think that would be extraordinary. When I look at you, I always think of J.K. Rowling. You have that same, it's M.C. Rowan, J.K. Rowling. And, guys, when I look at you, I think of Stephen King. Okay? Come on, we've got so much possibility here. I want to say this has been so inspiring. And if you have a book or a movie or a documentary in your head, go for it. My dream would be to be able to put the trilogy on Unchained TV as a movie. Would you do that? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Well, I want to say that everybody support these books. Get them however you want to get them. I know you can get them in other places. If you just want to go on Amazon, I provided the links, but there are other ways to get this book. If you don't want to use Amazon, I totally respect that. Please support these authors, because what they are doing is absolutely crucial. We need to use every creative process There are violinists who are doing incredible things for the movement. There are accountants who are doing incredible things for the animal rights movement. Whatever your skills are, you can use it to make a more compassionate world. And of course, I'm going to leave you with download the Unchained TV app. It is free. It is so easy to download on your phone. One word, Unchained TV. We will see you next time here on Voice America Radio.
All right.